What's up, everyone? It's Aspen, and you just tuned into First Steps in Our Conversations. Today is episode 5, and we're going to talk to Paige Laidig about her recovery journey. So, let's get started. Hi, my name is Paige Laidig. I'm a registered nurse at First Step Center in North Scottsdale. I've been a registered nurse for 20 years. My passion to work in this industry has always been because I, too, myself suffer from substance abuse disorders. I've had a long history of addiction and alcoholism with myself, and about 20 years ago, I was first introduced to a 12-step program. And when I became a nurse, I just wanted to help others that were struggling with this as well. My first drink was taken when I was 12 years old. I wanted to find something that would make me feel prettier, make me fit in, make me feel skinnier, make me feel funnier, that somebody would actually like me. I grew up in a home where I really felt like I was ignored, not really heard, not really seen. I had the best of everything growing up. I grew up in a home that best schools, best nannies, best houses, best cars, everything. But when I took that first drink, it's like I could breathe. I was out of fear, I was out of anxiety, and I believe I just started drinking alcoholically from the first time. I blacked out. And I remember calling one of my girlfriends the next day and saying, "Wow, what did we do yesterday or last night? That was so much fun." And it wasn't very much fun being left on my front stoop by my friends, and the doorbell rang and they all ran, and then my sister answered the door, and I just kind of like flopped in the house. And my drinking and my drugging had taken off alcoholically from that moment on. And another, drugs are a big part of my story. I do find solace in recovery in the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. For myself and my own journey, I just find that it's a little more stable for me. But there were a lot of drugs that I had done. I got into crack cocaine when I was in New York. I got into meth when I moved out here. I had long-term sobriety at one point where I had 9 years sober and then had a terrible relapse. And which actually, the relapse, looking back at it now, makes me a much stronger and better nurse and better woman today. Because during that relapse, I was caught by the Arizona State Board of Nursing. And I needed to not surrender my license, but surrender my complete will to the Arizona State Board of Nursing. And they put me into a phenomenal program called the Can Do program. And I actually had a relapse while I was in that program because I thought at that moment that the Arizona State Board of Nursing could keep me sober, that I thought I could stay sober for my kids, my 2 beautiful daughters. I could stay sober for my marriage. I could stay sober for a career. And what I found out in that process is that I was staying sober for all of these things around me, and I still had a relapse because I couldn't stay sober for myself. And when I went after 6 months of telling the State Board of Nursing I was sober and I had a really bad relapse, I went back to the State Board of Nursing and I told them I couldn't stay sober for them anymore. And if they needed to take my license, they could take my license because now we're talking about my life. And it was that moment, and I was sent away to treatment, it was that moment that I realized I'm worth staying sober for. And ever since then, I celebrated 3 years in October. These last 3 years have been like the best years of my life. I am fully in good standing with the Arizona State Board of Nursing. I graduated that program. I don't like to say graduate though because it's a continuation of my life. I have my 2 beautiful daughters, Caitlin and Haley, who are in my life, who 3 years ago they didn't trust their mom. And they shouldn't have trusted their mom because I was a dangerous mom. I was not a good mom. I'm bred to be selfish and self-centered, and that's the disease of alcoholism. And I tried very hard not to have kids, to be honest with you. I did not have my first child till I was 35. When I moved out here as a traveling nurse, I was a traveling nurse from Buffalo, New York to Arizona. I met an amazing man at a meeting, and I believe that our higher powers worked with each other to put us together to be the mother and father of our daughters, Caitlin and Haley. When I married this man, I did not expect that 9 years later into our marriage that I suffered a severe traumatic event, and I did not expect that I would be relapsing and being introduced to meth for the first time at 43 years old. And when I found meth, it took me away from everything. And it put me into that world of isolation that I had talked about before. And the thought of me not being around Caitlin and Haley every day, but knowing that I had to use, killed me. And I think it kind of fired the reason of why I continued to use, because of the guilt and shame. I talk to my clients today about guilt and shame, and I just believe that guilt is something that is good to have to a certain extent, to know that there's things we shouldn't be doing. But to carry that on a daily basis of the things that we have done in our life and in our past, it's completely ineffective for recovery. The thought that I walked out on my daughters and my husband because of this disease of addiction, and my career and everything, my family in Buffalo, everybody, I just walked out on them. Today, and my daughters saw a roller coaster of treatment centers, of psychiatric wards, of overdoses, you name it, they're a part of it. And today, even when they hurt me with the sayings of "you're a drug addict mom," and they have said that, and they have every right to be that angry with me, today I acknowledge it. And I tell them, yes, you're right, and I left you. I left you 7 years ago. I left your dad 7 years ago. I left both of you. But acknowledging it today to them and letting them know that they have their own path and their own feelings, and they have a right to feel what they're feeling, it just forms a lot of healing for us. A lot of people in the 12-step program, as well as Al-Anon, said, "Why are you doing what you're doing for your wife?" And he would say, simply enough, is that my daughters deserve to have a mom, and I will do anything possible to make sure that she doesn't die. And I know when I see him sometimes, I think he struggles with that guilt of, did I do something wrong? Did I not do enough or whatever? But today I'm over 3 years clean. But with that being said, I need to take care of myself, and I need to recover on a daily basis. And I'm so grateful through the work that I have done that the obsession to drink or want to use drugs has been completely lifted. And I get to be a part of my life. I get to, when I come into work, it doesn't matter really where I'm working, it's that I get to help another alcoholic or addict.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. It does mean so much to us. If there's a topic you'd like us to make a video on, please leave it in the comments below. And don't forget to hit subscribe if you like what you see. Until next time, be blessed and stay sober. Thank you.